Machine Games and Bethesda appeared at the Xbox Developer Direct to finally pull the curtain back on the Indiana Jones game, which is now officially titled Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. There have been many questions about the Indiana Jones game since it was first announced, and many of those questions have now been answered thanks to the big Xbox Developer Direct reveal. Machine Games has a reputation for delivering high-quality first-person shooter experiences, successfully revitalizing the Wolfenstein franchise with the New Order and the New Colossus. When it was announced that Machine Games would be developing an Indiana Jones game, many wondered if the game would be first-person like the studio's other projects or if it would be a third-person action-adventure title instead. It's now been confirmed that Indiana Jones is primarily a first-person game, though it will also incorporate third-person elements. While the bulk of the game will have players experience Indiana Jones and the Great Circle through Indy's eyes, environmental traversal and cutscenes will be in third person, with Harrison Ford's likeness used. Some other exciting details about Indiana Jones and the Great Circle were also revealed during the Xbox Developer Direct, including the fact that the game is looking to launch at some point later in 2024. It was explained during the Xbox Developer Direct that Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is set in 1937, between the events of Raiders of the Lost Ark and the Last Crusade. Generally speaking, the Indiana Jones timeline is pretty straightforward, though there's one big caveat. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, the second movie in the franchise, is actually a prequel, set 1 year before the events of Raiders of the Lost Ark. The original Indiana Jones trilogy takes place between 1935 and 1938, with Temple of Doom being set in 1935, Raiders in 1936, and Last Crusade in 1938. Of course, then Kingdom of the Crystal Skull and Dial of Destiny are set much further in the future, taking place in 1957 and 1969 respectively. Setting the game in 1937 is a pretty genius move on Machine Games' part. Not only does this setting pave the way for the aforementioned iconic Indiana Jones imagery, but it also flings the door wide open for a range of franchise cameos, the vast majority of which would actually make a lot of sense in this game. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle's reveal trailer already showed that Indy's college colleague and surrogate father figure Marcus Brody will be in the game, and that could just be the beginning. Set just a year after Raiders of the Lost Ark, it would make complete sense for the Great Circle to at least reference Marion Ravenwood, and why she's no longer in the picture, with Kingdom of the Crystal Skull stating that Indy ditched her just a week before their wedding. It would also make a lot of sense for Salah to make an appearance in the Great Circle, with Egypt being confirmed as one of the game's many locations. There's even a possibility, albeit a much smaller one, that Short Round could make a cameo. Fans have been wanting Short Round to return for a while now, and while the Great Circle's place on the timeline would mean that he's still a child and technically wouldn't be played by Ke Huy Quan, it'd still be fun to see him show up on another indie adventure. Interestingly, there's a little gap of a year between Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark and the Last Crusade, and that's where Indiana Jones and the Great Circle snugly fits. Taking place in 1937, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle will see Indy unravel a mystery that connects all the 7 wonders, which he believes make some kind of circle around the world. Being set in 1937, players can expect to see plenty of classic Indiana Jones imagery, from Nazis to airships to recently uncovered temples and archaeological sites. The story begins when a giant of a man attempts to steal an artifact from the museum located in the college that Indy works at as a professor. This event puts the adventure in motion, with Indy going on a globe-trotting adventure to solve the mystery of the titular Great Circle. Indy won't be alone on his adventure. Like in the Indiana Jones film series, Jones has a companion to help him in his quest. This time around, he's joined by Gina, an investigative reporter who has a lot riding on the adventure and has been tracking a lead tied to the Great Circle mystery for a long time. Players will unravel the mysteries in Indiana Jones and the Great Circle while engaging in melee combat, stealth, gunplay, some massive set pieces and puzzle solving. Machine Games wants to give players plenty of options when it comes to tackling each situation that they find themselves in. Of course, Indy will have his trusty whip at his disposal, which is used as both a weapon and a traversal tool. Beyond the dangerous enemies that players come across in Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, they will also have to tackle a variety of puzzles, some of which will be optional, as well as plenty of deadly Indiana Jones-style elaborate traps. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle sees Indy set off on the trail of a seemingly innocuous artifact that has been stolen from Marshall College, where he works. Set between the events of Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Last Crusade, the game features the archaeologist in his prime, and Harrison Ford has been faithfully recreated from head to toe. Equally impressive is the fact that veteran video game actor Troy Baker, whose previous roles include Joel Miller from The Last of Us and Sam Drake from Uncharted, is able to closely mimic Ford's tone and style. This further adds to the game's authentic look and feel. While some iconic characters, such as James Bond, have been played by various actors throughout history, certain ones are synonymous with a single actor. It's tough to accept the notion of anyone else playing Iron Man on the silver screen other than Robert Downey Jr., and the thought of anyone else donning Indiana Jones' famous hat and bullwhip other than Harrison Ford is difficult to imagine. Disney clearly agrees with this notion, a fact proven by its reluctance to recast Indy in any capacity, despite Ford now being over 80 years old. His recent, and last, outing, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, featured a de-aged Harrison Ford in several scenes, and the general consensus is that this is favorable over recasting a younger actor. Ford's other most famous role, that of Star Wars Han Solo, was controversially recast in the character's origin movie Solo: A Star Wars Story, and despite doing a decent job, actor Alden Ehrenreich found it incredibly difficult to step out from under the veteran actor's shadow. For these reasons, it seems a no-brainer that Machine Games uses Ford's likeness for its depiction of Indiana Jones. Additionally, Troy Baker seems the perfect choice for Indy. He is no stranger to big-budget video games and brings real personality to every role he plays. The fact that he's a huge Indiana Jones fan himself may seem minor, but it should make a huge difference to the authenticity of his portrayal. Henry Cavill's excellent performance as Geralt of Rivia in Netflix's Witcher series has shown what difference it makes if someone is a real fan of the source material, and this should lend further credence to that point. I would prefer the game to be third person, but aside from some animation issues, the game looks impressive so far, and it will be exciting to see how it all comes together later this year. Indiana Jones is a tremendously influential franchise across multiple mediums. Films like National Treasure and The Mummy draw obvious inspiration, and in gaming, Uncharted and Tomb Raider would not be the same without the trilogy of Harrison Ford flicks. Some may argue the latter have improved the formula, and as there are always more adventures to be had and more history to be uncovered, taking cues from Nathan Drake and Lara Croft, re-establishing Indy's crown in the process, felt like the obvious choice. Using Indiana Jones' signature whip as a conventional grappling hook or a tool like the rope in Uncharted 4 makes a lot of sense, and the exploration lends itself so well to the third-person perspective. First-person works if a game is heavy on shooting, but for an action-adventure game, as Indiana Jones has always been about more than just bashing the bad guys. It's a strange decision to put the player so closely in the shoes of the character. To then make the game a first-person one feels like a misstep, because in that perspective, fans get little time to actually see Indy during his golden age. However, if any studio is going to make this first-person perspective work, the brains behind Wolfenstein: The New Order have the best shot. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle will be throwing the adventurer into a variety of new locales. From the Vatican to Thailand's Sukhothai temples, Indy will be traveling all over the world. Set between Raiders and The Last Crusade, Indy's already experienced larger-than-life adventures by the Great Circle. Despite this, the upcoming title still looks to throw him to corners of the planet that are entirely unknown to Indy or the franchise. With the eponymous Great Circle describing a circle of significant locations around the globe, the game will take place over a longer distance than any of his series outings so far. Vatican City is a city-state nestled in Rome, Italy. It's ruled by the Pope, himself also the head of the Catholic Church worldwide. This is said to be where Indiana will go first in the game's plot, with footage highlighting St. Peter's Basilica, specifically the world's largest church and an especially holy site in Catholicism. Since the game takes place in 1937, this will be bringing Indy right into the heart of fascist Italy. Whilst Vatican City is independent of Italy, the propensity for Indiana Jones media to tangle with fascist villains makes a confrontation with Mussolini's forces here likely. The Sukhothai Kingdom was a civilization that existed from 1238 to 1438 in present-day Thailand. The capital of this kingdom was the city of Sukhothai, where today 193 ruins have been unearthed. The ruins of Sukkotai's temples were spotlighted by the trailer material for the Great Circle as one of the many settings Indy will traverse. A few of the puzzles and traps shown off look to be set in or around these ruins, in addition to numerous shots of Indy arriving by boat implying that a naval sequence is possible. The Himalayas is a cross-country mountain range that sits on the border between China and India. It also goes straight through Nepal and Bhutan and has sections in Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Myanmar. Naturally, this makes it incredibly difficult to pin down where Indy will be going when he travels to these mountains. It's possible, though unlikely given the size of the range, that Indy could end up in a spot he's traveled before. He slid down the Himalayas in an inflatable raft to escape crime boss Lao Che in the Temple of Doom. Indiana Jones is no stranger to Egypt, and the Great Circle looks to continue his adventures there. Not only are Egypt's pyramids on display and highlighted in the overview, but the trailer footage displayed clearly shows off the Great Sphinx of Giza. A great deal of footage is dedicated to sites set up around these areas, with a good deal of the game's combat being shown off here. It's important to mention that the game's villain, Emmerich Voss, is shown burying Indy up to his neck in the sands of Africa. It's likely that this is also taking place in Egypt, but it could be possible that it is referring to a sandy locale in a different African country. Also shown off in the trailer is what looks to be Shanghai. Here Indy is jumping between planes, including one that looks to be a Mitsubishi A6M20, an aircraft used by the Empire of Japan. Since the Great Circle will be taking place in 1937, this is very likely the Battle of Shanghai. Indy's death-defying stunt here also gives a brief glimpse into one of the many Indy ploys that the Great Circle will allow players to dare try. I am very excited for this experience, and it can't come soon enough. The only other thing I cared about from the Xbox Developer Direct was Hellblade 2 finally getting a release date of May 21, 2024. I'm looking forward to that too. The other ones I'm not interested. Plants vs. Zombies 3 Welcome to Zomburbia, a new game in the series, has been revealed and is in the beginning stages of a soft launch in certain countries. The game's soft launch announcement accompanies the release of an official trailer, teasing a return to the classic feel of Plants vs. Zombies. The last installment in the world came in 2019 with the Battle for Neighborville, and now we are closer than ever to getting our hands on the latest colorful installment from Plants vs. Zombies. Plants vs. Zombies has a long history of being a beloved classic, but not one without its fair share of issues. While the original game was massively successful, the transition of its sequel to a free-to-play model caused severe problems. Many fans and some previous developers disagreed with microtransactions in Plants vs. Zombies and claimed this model was not what PvZ was made to be. Since then, fans of Plants vs. Zombies have enjoyed several spin-offs of the original game, such as the Battle for Neighborville, Garden Warfare, and even a digital card game. PopCap has released an official trailer for the upcoming Plants vs. Zombies 3 Welcome to Zomburbia, which marks the return of one of the best base defense games, with the same combat style that I loved in the first and second game. As of January 17th, the game has been soft-launched in select regions, including the United Kingdom, Netherlands, Australia, Philippines, and the Republic of Ireland. This enables some players to enjoy early access while developers continue to collect data and improve on the game before its official launch. This official launch is expected to be sometime later in 2024, and Plants vs. Zombies 3 will be available to play on both iOS and Android. Plants vs. Zombies 3 will take players back to the classic lane-based tower defense combat from the original games, but also feature an episodic and story-driven experience with elements of puzzle and adventure. As always, players must defend their neighborhood from the incoming hordes, but now they can rebuild and customize it as well as befriend familiar faces from previous games. Many fan-favorite plants will also make a comeback alongside new ones, harkening back to the familiar days of pea shooters and sunflowers from the first and arguably the best Plants vs. Zombies game. While a revisitation of the game's original format is exciting, many fans are concerned that the lessons learned with Plants vs. Zombies 2 have been forgotten. More than ever before, in-game purchases are an expensive and common nuisance for many players, with some spending more on microtransactions than on games themselves. Especially in free-to-play titles, games are commonly riddled with microtransactions, and seeing as PvZ3 will be free-to-play, there is a chance that the mistakes of its predecessor will be seen again here. It is unclear as of now how monetization will work in Plants vs. Zombies 3, but this aspect of the game could make or break it. I am a big Plants vs. Zombies fan. I hope it returns to the classic tone and Part 2 and 3 come to PC and PS5. Ubisoft appears to be developing a Far Cry spin-off based on the Captain Laserhawk A Blood Dragon Remix animated series, some newly emerged evidence suggests. Called Captain Laserhawk Niji Warrior, the game in question is poised to be the series' first spin-off since the zero-latency developed Far Cry VR Dive into Insanity, which hit the market in June 2021. Captain Laserhawk A Blood Dragon Remix is a critically acclaimed animated series inspired by Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon. The anime was created by Adi Shankar, an American filmmaker whom gaming audiences might recognize for his work on the Castlevania Nocturne series, where he serves as an executive producer. A Blood Dragon Remix hit Netflix in mid-October 2023 and was met with a warm reception from the fandom and critics alike. However, neither Ubisoft nor Netflix have yet given any indication that there are plans to expand on this IP beyond the anime's initial 6-episode run. Be that as it may, the Pan-European Game Information (PEGI) database has just added a rating for Captain Laserhawk Niji Warrior. The newly surfaced listing describes the unannounced Far Cry spin-off as a multiplayer experience that tasks players with competing to eliminate the most opponents in a game of laser deathmatch. The title received a PEGI 12 rating due to its depictions of violence against humanoid characters, with that classification being more lenient than the one attached to the actual anime. For reference, Netflix recommends Captain Laserhawk A Blood Dragon Remix for ages 16 and up. The PEGI rating also reveals that Captain Laserhawk Niji Warrior will feature microtransactions, specifically mentioning the ability to purchase in-game cosmetics. While that description might point to this being a free-to-play mobile experience, the classification lists PC as the game's sole target platform. That's not to say Captain Laserhawk Niji Warrior will necessarily be a PC exclusive, as major publishers often file for separate game ratings in case of staggered platform releases. The PEGI rating lists the game's release date as December 19, 2023, which is either a decisively strange placeholder or an indicator that Ubisoft ended up delaying this Far Cry spin-off prior to its announcement. The very title of this purported Far Cry spin-off appears to be a reference to Niji 6, a group of superheroes featured in Captain Laserhawk that were based on both Power Rangers and Rainbow Six Siege. Even the group's very name is a reference to Ubisoft's long-running franchise, as Niji is the Japanese word for rainbow. All Niji 6 members also happen to don the colors of the rainbow. The chances that Captain Laserhawk Niji Warrior ends up being released are fairly high, as it's rare to see publishers go through the trouble of classifying games that aren't guaranteed to see the light of day. Apart from this unannounced spin-off of a spin-off, Ubisoft is currently also working on Far Cry 7 and a Far Cry extraction shooter. A producer from Capcom gave fans of the Ace Attorney franchise some good news, promising that the publisher isn't abandoning the series anytime soon. The first Ace Attorney game was released in 2001 on the Game Boy Advance. Ever since, it has spawned a trilogy on the handheld console, which was then ported to the Nintendo DS and brought over to the West. With its surprise popularity, Ace Attorney would help show the appeal of visual novel games in the West. The series hasn't slowed down its releases after this initial success, with Capcom launching 3 sequels on the Nintendo DS and 3DS, as well as the Miles Edgeworth-focused investigations and the Great Ace Attorney spin-off duologies. Capcom has also been keeping Ace Attorney alive through various re-release collections for modern consoles, such as 2021's The Great Ace Attorney Chronicles Collection, which was also the first time the games were localized in the West, along with the release of the Apollo Justice Ace Attorney trilogy coming later this month. The producer of the Apollo Justice trilogy re-release, Kenichi Hashimoto, has recently said the series won't be stopping at all. In an interview with 4Gamer, translated courtesy of Nintendo Everything, he says the series isn't being abandoned and asks fans to look forward to what they have in store, thanks to their knowledge of working with Capcom's proprietary RE engine. While the producer didn't mention a game that the developers could discuss at the moment, working with the engine was extremely beneficial. At this time there is nothing to talk about, but we have gained a lot of knowledge about the RE engine. I can say that the Ace Attorney series will not be stopping, so in that sense, I think you can look forward to what is coming, said Hashimoto. Hashimoto discussed some of the challenges that they had working with the re-release, as the developers were using the RE engine to bring these games, which were made with completely different tech, to modern platforms. Other problems they faced were the limitations of the RE engine, noting how it was built for action-focused games like Devil May Cry 5 or Street Fighter 6, and not necessarily adventure games like the Ace Attorney series in mind. Despite the issues the developers ran into, Hashimoto says that working with the engine was a valuable learning experience. The last mainline title released in the series was Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney: Spirit of Justice, originally launched on the 3DS in 2016, and is one of the games bundled in the Apollo Justice collection. While a new Ace Attorney game hasn't been announced outside the aforementioned remaster package, this update should be encouraging for fans who are invested in the series. Rebel Wolves, a new studio largely made up of former CD Projekt Red developers, revealed its new game known as Dawnwalker. In addition to the game's title, the ex-CD Projekt Red developers unveiled a wallpaper that hints at Dawnwalker's theme. Since the release of Cyberpunk 2077, multiple groups of former CD Projekt Red developers left the company to pursue their own projects. Recently, one group of ex-CD Projekt Red developers formed a new studio to create a character-focused apocalyptic game. Rebel Wolves, a different group that initially formed back in early 2022, finally offered a look into its own forthcoming game. In response to rumors surrounding the studio's first project, Rebel Wolves tweeted, "Yes, we are working on Dawnwalker." Accompanying the tweet is a wallpaper that shows a man leaping through the air with a sword, with his left hand taking on a somewhat monstrous appearance. The wallpaper's blood-red color, the warrior's strange hand, and the game's title have led many to speculate that Rebel Wolves' first game will be vampire-themed. Daywalker is a term sometimes used in stories to describe vampire-human hybrids who can walk in the sun, unlike their full vampire counterparts. Some fans have claimed that Dawnwalker is an obvious play on this word, but this is still speculation at this point. However, other evidence, like the character's monstrous hand in the wallpaper, along with the image's obvious allusions towards blood, have led some to become quite certain that Dawnwalker will follow some sort of vampire. Almost a year ago, a previous announcement confirmed that Rebel Wolves' new game was a dark fantasy RPG seemingly set in a middle-age time frame. Following the studio's newest announcement, it might be safe to assume that Dawnwalker is a fantasy RPG game set in a middle-age-like world where the user plays as a vampire, assuming the studio's plans haven't drastically changed since that initial announcement. The disastrous state of Cyberpunk 2077 at launch and the problematic development leading up to it may play a key role in how studios like Rebel Wolves approach future games, as these companies are likely intending to take their time to deliver a finished product. There are some leadership changes at Sega, as Shuji Utsumi has been named President, COO and CEO of Sega America and Europe. Announced on Wednesday in a notice to investors, Utsumi's previous role as co-COO and representative director will be taken up by Yukio Sugino, starting April 1, 2024. Utsumi is an industry veteran, having joined Sony in 1994 as vice president where he was involved in the launch of the PlayStation in North America. He joined Sega in 1996 as senior vice president, and oversaw the launch of the Sega Dreamcast in the same territory. He left Sega in 2000 to work for Disney Interactive, followed by roles in Q Entertainment, Warner Music Japan, and Cybird before returning in 2019 as vice president and senior executive officer. Utsumi was named co-COO, president of Consumer Games and Transmedia, and representative director in April 2023. Sega Sammy also announced the retirement of 3 executives, including former executive vice president Shigeru Yamashita, former senior vice president Takedo Oshima, and former director of the board Hideo Yoshizawa. On January 2, Sega Europe announced the return of former president Jürgen Post as COO of West Studios and regional managing director, and the departure of chief studios officer Tim Heaton. Sega has been restructuring its operations, primarily in Europe, since September last year, which led to layoffs at Creative Assembly and the cancellation of Hyenas. Speaking of restructuring, Embracer Group has announced more layoffs at Lost Boys Interactive, a subsidiary of Gearbox Software. Lost Boys Interactive provided support work on the Borderlands spin-off Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, but the studio is now facing the axe with multiple departments set to lose staff. A Swedish holding company, Embracer Group has a dozen subsidiary groups across various facets of video games and media. Last year, Embracer ordered multiple large-scale layoffs and shutdowns, resulting in thousands of lost jobs by the end of 2023. While fans were hopeful that the cutbacks would come to an end, Embracer has announced yet another studio to be hit with layoffs. First shared by Windows Central, employees at Lost Boys Interactive have begun reporting that the studio is the latest to be hit with major layoffs. Lost Boys Interactive helped Gearbox Software with the development of Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, which proved a critical and commercial success. However, Embracer is continuing its cost-cutting efforts, and the Tiny Tina developers are revealing layoffs across the design, production, and quality assurance departments, among others. There is currently no official confirmation on the number of employees expected to be let go, but many of those affected have begun sharing the news on LinkedIn and other social media sites. After previous rumors of Embracer wanting to sell Gearbox Software, this set of layoffs at co-developer Lost Boys Interactive has left many fans worried about the future of Borderlands and Gearbox. Gearbox is owned by Embracer, which acquired the Borderlands maker in 2021 as part of a $1.3 billion deal. In September last year, it was reported that Embracer was considering the possible sale of the company as part of its restructuring program. Gearbox experienced a series of layoffs prior to this report. Embracer Group has laid off well over 900 people, likely more than 1,000, since it announced it was restructuring in July. Most recently, the company shut down TimeSplitter's developer Free Radical Design. Thunderful Group has announced a restructuring program to decrease costs, which will include both significant staff reductions and potential divestments, the company said. Around 20% of its workforce will be affected, Thunderful said, with the firm hoping to see the effects of the restructuring on its finances from the second half of 2024. The aim of the restructuring is to improve the firm's competitiveness, Thunderful added, by lowering costs and refocusing on areas that bring it the most profitability. Thunderful is aiming for annual cost reductions between 90 million Swedish kronor, $8.6 million, and 110 million Swedish kronor, $10.5 million, as well as improved cash flow with an equivalent amount, it said. The publisher reported mixed results for Q3 back in November. While its revenues saw a 4% lift in the first 9 months of the year, losses increased from 9.2 million Swedish kronor, $876,000, for the same period in 2022 to 22.3 million Swedish kronor, $2.1 million. The need for restructuring was identified by the new management team and Thunderful's board of directors, the company said. Massive founder Martin Wolfus was named CEO back in May 2023 and the firm went through a leadership shakeup in December. Wolfus commented, "Since I joined as CEO in the fall of 2023, we have evaluated the current business and the future position of Thunderful. To ensure and strengthen the viability of the group, we have found no alternative other than to reduce costs and focus the business on areas with the best future growth and profitability prospects. It has been difficult to make these decisions, and it saddens me that we will have to say goodbye to many skilled colleagues and partners. Nevertheless, I am convinced that this is a necessary direction for Thunderful and that these changes will make the company a stronger player in the market," said the CEO. According to a report from Kotaku, layoffs at the Dead by Daylight studio started in December, but this specific wave occurred between January 9th and 11th. It impacted Behavior's Montreal staff only, across various departments. According to the company's LinkedIn profile, Behavior Interactive employs 1,300 staff worldwide. Behavior Interactive made a number of acquisitions last year, with Sock Monkey Studios bought in February 2023, and Codeglue in August. It also started a UK studio from scratch in July, based in Truro, Cornwall. Behavior Interactive confirmed layoffs to GamesIndustry.biz, saying it represented less than 3% of its workforce and only affected its Montreal staff. The Lords of the Fallen publisher CI Games has recently announced that 10% of its entire team has been laid off. Piranha Bytes is on the verge of closure, several industry sources have said. Currently owned by the Embracer Group subsidiary THQ Nordic, the celebrated developer has been in business for nearly 3 decades. Founded in 1997, the Essen, Germany-based studio is best known as the developer behind the iconic Gothic RPGs, as well as the Risen series. The studio has been focused on the Elex franchise over the past decade. While Piranha Bytes games never achieved truly mainstream popularity, in part because their lack of polish made them an acquired taste of sorts, they have long been touted as some of the most inventive takes on the role-playing genre. The studio may not get any more chances to add to its legacy, with the German video game podcast The Pod reporting that Piranha Bytes is currently on the verge of closure, citing sources familiar with the matter. The claim was independently verified by the Munich-based outlet GameStar, which has also discovered that the German government recently removed Wiki 6, widely believed to be the codename for LX3, from its list of game development projects that received public funding. For clarity, Wiki 6 was awarded €3 million in funding in 2023. GameStar sources claim that Embracer's cost-cutting efforts saw the company spend months trying to offload Piranha Bytes last year. After being unable to find a buyer for the studio, the Swedish gaming giant effectively disbanded its 30-something staff at the end of 2023. Following a massive influx of fan questions resulting from the multiple recent reports that Piranha Bytes may be shutting down, the Essen-based studio has now offered some clarifying comments on the matter. Taking to Twitter, the company admitted that it finds itself in a difficult situation nowadays, thus seemingly confirming the earlier reports detailing its troubles. Nevertheless, the studio asked the fans not to write it off prematurely, stating that it is currently doing everything it can to remain in business. The studio's statement implies that Embracer's previously reported efforts to find a buyer for Piranha Bytes are still ongoing. In the days preceding Piranha Bytes' latest statement, its unannounced project Currywurst, also known as Wiki 6, has once again appeared on the pages of the German Federal Ministry of Economics and Climate Protection, which previously granted it €3.1 million in funding. The recent removal of that page was previously cited among the circumstantial evidence substantiating the claims that Piranha Bytes faces immediate closure, although this latest turn of events implies that the delisting itself was a mistake. Wiki 6 is widely assumed to be LX3. According to recent reports, Piranha Bytes creative director Bjorn Pankratz left the studio in late 2023 following disagreements with his 30-something team about the company's next game. While Pankratz is believed to have been the driving force behind the somewhat polarizing setting of the LX series, his departure might not necessarily spell the end of those games if Piranha Bytes has indeed received federal funding for developing a third entry in the franchise. His wife, Piranha Bytes game designer Jennifer Pankratz, remains at the company as of early 2024, assuming her LinkedIn profile is up to date. While the company itself still formally exists and Embracer continues to shop it around, all work on Wiki 6 has been stopped as of early 2024, as per the same source. Germany's dismissal protections that prevent employers from laying off employees with no notice are plausibly the chief reason why Piranha Bytes remains operational, if only on paper. The studio's purported difficulties should not have a material impact on the fate of the Gothic remake, which is being handled by Barcelona-based Alchimia Interactive, another THQ Nordic subsidiary. While that project started in early 2020, is still without an official release date, Alchimia recently said that the Gothic remake is targeting a 2024 release. The potential closure of Piranha Bytes would likely spell the end to its brand of games, known for their handcrafted and incredibly reactive worlds with dark and intoxicating atmospheres, as well as meaningful choices. The original Gothic is widely touted as a particularly groundbreaking game that was the first to forfeit the numbers-go-up approach to leveling in favor of a more immersive system that provided players with an opportunity to learn new combat animations as they get better at wielding a particular class of weapons, among other innovations. Although LX2 wasn't as well received as the studio's past games, it still continued that design philosophy that now appears to be facing extinction. Game industry layoffs were among the biggest game news stories of 2023, and this unfortunate trend seems to be continuing into 2024. CI Games' latest release was Lords of the Fallen, and it was a good hit, selling over 1 million copies in only 10 days. As a comparison, the previous iteration of the franchise took 7 months to achieve 900,000 units sold. Last year, the company revealed that 2023's Lords of the Fallen was its most expensive project to date with total costs of PLN $281 million, $66.2 million. However, despite this financial success, CI Games is laying off employees. The layoffs are rumored to have affected the majority of the company's marketing department. CI Games CEO Marek Tominski commented on the event, saying that, to preserve business strength and stability, CI Games has made the tough but necessary decision to implement a targeted round of redundancies. Sources pointed us towards affected staff posting on LinkedIn claiming the majority of the marketing team has been made redundant. It was told that Lords of the Fallen developer Hexworks and Sniper Ghost Warrior studio Underdog had also been affected. It's unclear how this round of layoffs will affect the development of the next projects made by CI Games. Right now, CI Games is reportedly developing a sequel for Lords of the Fallen, which could be released around 2026, and TWP new IPs as well. I've discussed their upcoming games in my previous video in detail. The layoffs made by the Lords of the Fallen publisher mark the continuation of one of the most unfortunate trends in the gaming industry in recent times. Jukai Studio announced its closure over the holidays, despite launching its horror survival title Stray Souls last October. In a statement shared to social media on December 22, the developer cited many reasons for its decision to shut down, including the closure of its publisher vs. Evil, cyberbullying, poor reception to Stray Souls, and bad sales. We did everything in our power to bring the project to completion in the best possible form, but throughout the entire duration we, our publisher staff, other publisher dev teams and our close ones were constantly attacked by a cyber persecutor, and some of you, as our community, were also tormented with unwanted messages and emails, the developer said. We understand that you did not wish to continue actively supporting us for the obvious reasons mentioned above, it continued. The matter is now in the hands of our lawyers, so we cannot speak about it any further, but know that we will not abandon Stray Souls, despite the studio's closure. Jukai Studio clarified that no staff had been laid off in the process, as it never functioned as a large corporation, adding, "Together we decided that each of us will go their separate ways." Stray Souls publisher vs. Evil announced its closure on the same day as Jukai Studio, which was founded in 2013 and acquired by TinyBuild in 2021. Unity is planning on laying off as much as 25% of its staff, according to a filing with the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC. The past year has been tricky for the company following its controversial pricing model update that prompted outrage from developers and pushed Unity CEO to step down. With the latest layoff announcement, Unity's turbulent situation only appears to be getting more challenging. As per a recent SEC filing and an internal company memo, Unity plans to lay off about 1,800 of its staff, or approximately 25% of its workforce. The company claims the cuts are a part of its restructuring and refocusing efforts on its core business and to position Unity for long-term and profitable growth. However, it's unclear if the announced layoffs are separate or on top of the already announced staff cuts from last year. As reported by The Verge, the layoffs were confirmed in a filing with the United States Securities and Exchange Commission, in which Unity cited restructures and refocuses on its core business and to position itself for long-term and profitable growth as reasons for its decision. Unity has made the difficult decision to implement a workforce reduction, targeting approximately 25% of our total workforce across all teams, said Kelly Ekins, Unity's director of PR. This latest round of layoffs comes after Unity dismissed 265 employees last November as part of its termination agreement with VFX studio Weta. Unity previously announced its intention of a company reset outlined in its most recent shareholder letter, in which it warned of more redundancies. Back in November, Unity announced layoffs in its Q3 report, the second time in the year and the fourth time in 17 months. At the time, the company noted that its CEO change prompted a comprehensive assessment of its products and services with regard to utilizing its existing resources. Part of this process meant that more staff cuts were on the cards, although the company's latest announcement marks the biggest layoff for Unity in a 2-year period. It doesn't help that even some of the most successful studios like Insomniac Games have been pressured to lay off staff, along with several acquisitions and mergers in recent years like within the Embracer Group turning out to be unfruitful. In any case, it remains to be seen how far the cutbacks will impact Unity in the coming few months. Although Unity's announcement raises concerns for the gaming industry in 2024, it's unclear if the year will follow a similar trajectory in terms of layoffs. From the technology and gaming industries to the content creation and social media sectors, 2023 saw an almost unprecedented series of layoffs. Barely 2 weeks into 2024, more employees are receiving news of studio cutbacks and shutdowns, leaving many to wonder about the future of various franchises and services. The U.S. Supreme Court has denied requests for appeals from both Epic and Apple, maintaining the ruling from the original antitrust trial in 2021. A court order, spotted by The Verge, rejects the appeals, meaning that the case is primarily a win for Apple. The only one of Epic's 10 counts raised during the case upheld by the courts is for the iOS firm to cease its anti-steering practices, preventing developers to linking to direct payment options that don't involve a 30% fee for Apple. This ruling was made by Judge Yvonne Gonzalez-Rogers in the 2021 trial, but both parties appealed against this, first, via the Ninth Court of Appeals, then later via the Supreme Court. Apple has delayed making changes to its anti-steering practices while the appeals process continues, but with the Supreme Court's decision, developers should soon be able to direct players to alternative payment systems. The dispute arose in 2020 when Epic Games introduced a hotfix to Fortnite on iOS that allowed players to buy virtual currency directly from the developer, negating the 30% cut Apple receives from all microtransactions. Apple pulled Fortnite from the App Store, to which Epic responded with an antitrust lawsuit. The same occurred on Android, with Epic also challenging Google. Epic Games CEO Tim Sweeney commented on the decision via social media, stating that the Supreme Court's decision means that the court battle to open iOS to competing stores and payments is lost in the United States, which he dubbed a sad outcome for all developers. Apple may need to implement larger changes in Europe after the European Union's Digital Markets Act comes into effect on March 7, 2024. This new legislation aims to ensure that gatekeepers of core platform services, of which Apple has been designated as one, cannot prioritize their own products and services over those of other companies, and must allow businesses to promote products and services offered outside the gatekeeper's platform. Epic Games is still challenging Apple in other markets, having filed a similar antitrust lawsuit in Australia. The Fortnite firm also filed in the UK, but this was blocked by the UK Competition Tribunal. The outcome of Epic versus Apple in the US is in stark contrast with the recent jury decision in the similar Epic versus Google case. Last month, the jury decided Google is operating an illegal monopoly on Android, most notably when it comes to requiring developers to use its Play Store's payment system for all transactions and claiming a 30% fee. Google intends to appeal this decision. Apple has detailed how direct payments will work on iOS following the resolution of its long-running legal battle with Epic Games, and it will claim a 27% commission on proceeds generated through these methods. According to the revised guidelines, developers must now apply for an entitlement detailed below, and must still include the option to purchase through Apple's own billing system. Direct payment links are to be offered as an alternative, not a replacement. Apple will still charge a 27% commission on any proceeds earned from sales made through links to external payment systems. This commission is 12% for participants in the iOS firm's small business program. These changes only apply to the iOS and iPadOS app stores in the United States. In all other markets, developers are banned from using buttons, external links or other calls to action that direct users to purchase methods other than those within the app. Developers must apply for a StoreKit external link entitlement. Once they have submitted their request, Apple will review the app to ensure it complies with the terms and conditions of the entitlement, in addition to the usual App Store review guidelines and its developer program license agreement. If approved, developers may add links to their games that let players purchase in-game items directly from the studio, and inform them that doing so may be cheaper than buying in-game. Developers will need to provide a transaction report within 15 calendar days of the end of each month, even if there have been no direct purchases made during that time. CNBC also reported that Apple will add a pop-up screen warning users of risks they are assuming when they leave the Apple ecosystem when they click the link to external payment systems. Developers are also not allowed to mention or promote the option of direct payments in the app's App Store product page. As ruled in the 2021 trial, Apple can no longer prevent developers from directing players to alternative payment options, such as buying directly from them. Epic believed direct payment options would avoid the 30% fee Apple takes from all transactions made through iOS apps. Apple delayed making these changes while it appealed against this decision, but CNBC reported it updated its processes and developer guidelines on Tuesday after the U.S. Supreme Court rejected appeals from both the iOS firm and Epic. As The Elder Scrolls Online approaches its 10th anniversary this year, the 2024 ESO Global reveal came with a fitting announcement, the game's latest major chapter, Gold Road. As expected, this latest chapter of The Elder Scrolls Online introduces a new zone with several distinct biomes and plenty of quests, dungeons, delves, and world bosses to tackle. The Gold Road chapter takes place in the Westweald Zone to the west of Cyrodiil and is situated in the space between the Gold Coast, Reaper's March, and Craglorn. Those who have played The Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion will probably already be familiar with this region and its central hub city, Skingrad. It's also worth noting that there is an additional series of Capper quests available for players who complete both the Necrom chapter and Gold Road. Though Bethesda says that like most ESO chapters, Gold Road still works as a standalone story and doesn't necessarily require playing through Necrom to follow. The key feature arriving with this expansion is something players have been speculating on for years: crafting spells with scribing. It's important to temper expectations, however, since the scribing system is meant to be a precursor for Oblivion spell crafting and won't be quite as freeform and potentially game-breaking. Initially, scribing will allow ESO players to customize skills from weapon and world skill lines with a combination of up to 3 modifiers, and there are plans to expand on this further down the line. Though players can't create a custom spell from the ground up, this system allows for a huge number of permutations, and it'll be interesting to see how scribing impacts character builds in the Elder Scrolls Online. This also comes side by side with a new styling mechanic which will allow players to modify the visual effects of their abilities. 22 styles will be available at launch, and Bethesda mentioned that styles can be earned through regular gameplay. In Q1 2024, 2 new dungeons are planned to arrive with Update 41, Oathsworn Pit and Bedlam Vale. Not much else was said about these, but a preview stream showing off Update 41 is planned for January 26 on Bethesda's Twitch channel. Update 41 is slated to hit the PTS on January 29 and should arrive on PC and console sometime in March. Q2 2024 will see the arrival of Update 42 and the Gold Road chapter with all its associated content, including the scribing system and the new trial. Q3 2024 will be introducing something major that has to do with ESO's player houses, but Bethesda is tight-lipped as to what that specifically entails. Lastly, in Q4 2024, PvP will be seeing a significant update, the details of which are again not clear at the moment. Bethesda did, however, point out that this PvP work is not related to Cyrodiil's PvP. It also looks like Gold Road was initially intended to include 2 new companions, but their release has instead been pushed back to Q4. Gold Road's new zone is Westweald, which is situated just to the west of Cyrodiil, connecting with Reaper's March to the south, Gold Coast to the west, and Craglorn to the north. In gameplay terms, however, it's uncertain at the moment if Westweald will be physically connected to those earlier zones. Westweald's hub city is Skingrad, which the Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion players might remember for hosting a memorable Dark Brotherhood quest that involved murdering everyone at a posh dinner party. Based on available screenshots for the chapter, it also looks like there's a sizable outlaws' refuge beneath the streets of Skingrad. Although Westweald and its central hub city Skingard might be familiar names to Oblivion players, the region has undergone some major changes due to events in the narrative. In the Necrom chapter, it is revealed that there is a new Daedric prince, Ithelia, who has mysteriously completely forgotten who she is. She escaped her imprisonment, and now Ithelia roams aimlessly around the Westweald in a state of confusion. A group of wood elves in the Westweald who call themselves the Recollection hope to restore Ithelia's powers and memories, and their efforts have somehow caused a full-blown jungle to spontaneously appear in the region. This jungle biome is called the Valenwood Annexation, while the other 2 biomes present in Gold Road are the autumn-hued Gold Road itself and the rolling hills of the Colovian Highlands. These strange circumstances will lead Elder Scrolls Online players on an investigation throughout the Westweald to learn more about Ithelia and what happened between her and the other Daedric princes. By the numbers, Gold Road promises around 30 hours of content spanning numerous quests, 6 delves, 6 world bosses, 2 public dungeons, and a new ESO trial called Lucent Citadel. Additionally, players who have completed Necrom will also have access to a series of special, Capper quests after Gold Road, presumably to tie up some common plot threads. Rocksteady Studios co-founder Sefton Hill and Jamie Walker have reportedly opened a new gaming studio. The initial reporting comes from online postings through a website that lists the former Rocksteady Studios founder's new studio. While no announcement has been made, the studio is called 100 Star Games. Sefton Hill and Jamie Walker are best known for founding Rocksteady Studios in 2004, with a headquarters in London, England. The studio's first game was Urban Chaos Riot Response in 2006 before moving on to the acclaimed Batman Arkham series. Under Rocksteady's development team, the series generated 4 unique Arkham titles. Now, the studio is working on the new Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League title, with additional work being conducted by Sumo Digital. However, Hill and Walker left Rocksteady in 2022, 2 years after the initial announcement of the Suicide Squad game. While Rocksteady works on launching its Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League title, Sefton Hill and Jamie Walker have established their studio, 100 Star Games Limited. Polygon reported its findings when it discovered the new studio through Endol, a business intelligence website. Hill and Walker have been listed as directors and business executives. 100 Star Games was incorporated in February 2023, but no other vital information exists except for a dissolved connection with Stylus Games. Furthermore, 100 Star Games was last updated in December 2023 on the Great Place to Work website. It's here that readers can better understand what the studio is about. With a company comprising 25 employees with a plan to have 100 gaming industry developers down the line, 100 Star Games is a startup based in East London. According to the company overview, the studio aims to craft cutting-edge gaming experiences that inspire and captivate players worldwide. Moreover, there is also a 100 Star Games LinkedIn account with very little information on display. Basic details such as the year the studio was founded, its company size, the industry type, and the official 100 Star Games website have all been specified, though the rest remains blank. While not much is known about the projects that 100 Star Games could work on, interested fans can check out the studio's official website to apply for a membership. The membership is a golden tab that opens up 2 prompts, jobs and info. Clicking on either one will trigger an email response that fans can fill out, though information is relatively scarce. It's unclear what projects the new studio could work on since it hasn't made any official announcements. Regardless, it's exciting to see that Hill and Walker are busy at work with 100 Star Games after leaving Rocksteady responsible for the Batman Arkham games. Hopefully their next game is single-player story-driven, and I think they left Rocksteady because WB is forcing their game studios to make live service games. Even after the massive success of Hogwarts Legacy, which we will dive into its commercial achievements later. These live service cash grabs need to go, and Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League gonna suffer that might get Rocksteady shut down. Recent years have seen supermassive games broaden its impact on the horror game genre with the Dark Pictures anthology. Though the studio's greatest success is still largely considered to be its jumping-off point, the 2015's Until Dawn. The title managed to bring the essence of horror films into an immersive, cinematic gaming experience, subverting players' expectations through its supernatural twists and terrifying Wendigo threats. Until Dawn holds up well for a number of reasons, not just through the lens of nostalgia, but in how its choice-based mechanics felt substantial to its story. With a number of ways for characters to die prematurely, there was no guarantee that all 8 would survive the night. This conceit begs the question of how the recently announced Until Dawn film adaptation might handle its story and character survival. Already, games have a tough time in the realm of movie adaptations as they work to translate gameplay and characters to the big screen. Though a title like Until Dawn provides additional hurdles due to how malleable its story is based on player choice. There isn't exactly a canon version of Until Dawn's story in terms of who gets out of the experience alive, though this versatility could wind up working to the film's advantage. PlayStation Productions and Screen Gems, part of Sony Pictures Entertainment, are working on a movie adaptation of supermassive horror hit Until Dawn. Swedish director David F. Sandberg, known for Annabelle Creation and the 2 Shazam movies, will be helming the film, The Hollywood Reporter said. The script was originally written by Polaroid and The Invitation screenwriter Blair Butler, but will be revised by Gary Dauberman, who wrote all 3 Annabelle films as well as The Nun and It Chapter 2. Screen Gems described the adaptation as an R-rated love letter to the horror genre, The Hollywood Reporter said. PlayStation Productions was announced back in 2019, its purpose being to adapt the company's games IP into film and TV series. Supermassive's Until Dawn came out in 2015, exclusively on PS4. It was followed by a VR spin-off, Until Dawn Rush of Blood, in 2016, and spiritual successor The Quarry in 2022. Once Until Dawn establishes its characters and sets up its premise, there's no longer a guarantee of survival for the majority of the cast. Characters like Sam, Mike, and Josh are invincible for plot reasons until the final chapter, though the others can meet a brutal end before the climactic cabin fire scene. Some of these Until Dawn deaths can result from failing QTEs, while others stem from more direct choices, like deciding to kill Emily after she's been bitten. The title emphasizes the butterfly effect in certain instances as well, where innocuous decisions can have dire repercussions down the line. As a result of Until Dawn's dual plot points between Josh's pranks on the group and the reveal of the Wendigos, there's a good bit of separation between the cast's experiences. Characters like Jessica bear the brunt of the Wendigo threat, and can die as early as Chapter 4. Others, like Until Dawn's Sam, Ashley, and Chris, fall prey to Josh's plan and have to deal with his psychological mind games before becoming aware of the actual dangers that await them. The dynamics between characters like Ashley and Chris and how players go about treating these relationships sets up potential death scenes and betrayals in a way that the film could interestingly emulate, as it's unclear whether it will adopt the game's bad choices, good choices, or a mix between the two. Because of this, there's a lot of utility in how the Until Dawn film might handle which of its characters survives. Moviegoers who are already familiar with Until Dawn's plot might have a general understanding of the plot points that the film will follow, though their expectations can still be subverted by character deaths. Whether the film opts for the "everyone survives" ending will be difficult to predict beforehand, as even in the final moments of the game, one misstep can result in a character being killed. Because the film doesn't have a definitive outcome that it has to abide by, the directions it can take should make the experience unpredictable in a way that all audiences can enjoy. While some fans have questioned the need for an Until Dawn movie given the already cinematic nature of the game, the adaptation could still feel distinct from its source material by virtue of who lives and dies. Given the choices that the game presented, players were likely to have different experiences from each other in their character survival rate and information discovered. Similar to how Until Dawn promoted replayability to witness different outcomes, the film experience could be exciting even if it tackles the same overarching narrative. As more information comes out regarding the film, it will be interesting to see how the production develops. The Day Before is a title that had high expectations prior to release, being billed as an ambitious project that would put its development studio Fantastic firmly on the map of the gaming industry. Originally announced in 2021 as an expansive survival MMO set in a zombie-ravaged dystopian future, it is clear to see why the premise of the game originally drew so much attention from prospective players. After many delays and trademark disputes, The Day Before was recently released in a state that was completely unreflective of what it originally promised to be. Playing more like a basic extraction shooter set on a small and underwhelming map, paying customers were immediately disappointed and felt lied to. While there was a brief glimmer of hope in the way of post-launch support to salvage the title, a recent announcement by Fantastic has caused widespread outrage, rightfully drawing attention from every corner of the industry. The controversy surrounding The Day Before was already uncomfortably big in the days following its December 7th release, but no one could expect that Fantastic would announce its closure as a studio less than a week after the game's launch. This news came in a quiet social media post from the studio, which cites the poor sales figures of The Day Before as the reason behind its shocking shutdown. Fantastic labeled The Day Before as a financial failure just 4 days after the game was released, stating how all income received from the title is being used to pay off pre-existing debts that the company owes to its partners. Of course, this infuriated the many players who purchased the game, with the studio's shutdown ending any concept of post-launch support for The Day Before and leaving it in a perpetual state of buggy early access. Since then, Fantastic has begun completely removing itself from the internet, with The Day Before being delisted from Steam and things like promotional trailers for the game being taken down from YouTube. This has led to long-term followers of the project feeling completely alienated and potentially scammed, though Fantastic has attempted to make amends following the predictably intense backlash to its shutdown announcement. In more recent social media posts, Fantastic claims that it is attempting to negotiate a complete refund policy with Steam for everyone who purchased The Day Before, with the studio also stating how it will receive nothing from The Day Before sales financially. While the studio is not directly profiting from the disastrous launch of The Day Before, it seems as if it has used the sales revenue of the project to pay off its debts before shutting down all support for the game, with outrage persisting as a result. Fantastic was founded in 2015. It has gone on to co-develop titles such as The Wild 8, develop Radiant 1, and Prop Knight. Fantastic has confirmed that it is closing down. Unfortunately, The Day Before has failed financially, and we lack the funds to continue, the developer said in a statement on Twitter. There are also some people finding info on them, that they didn't actually get shut down, but rebranding into a whole another studio. Basically, this is one of the biggest scams in gaming history. According to a recently published patent, Electronic Arts is working on a new game creation and marketplace software. The patent shows that this software would function similarly to Unreal Engine, Game Maker, and even the building games in Roblox. While there is no official confirmation on what EA is planning to do with this software, it does reveal what the company has been working on. Founded in 1982, Electronic Arts is an American video game company. EA became popular for its development of the Sims franchise, as well as multiple sports game series such as FIFA and Madden. The company acts as both a publisher and developer, with a number of classic titles in its wheelhouse. While EA produces a number of games in-house, this in-development software may offer fans the opportunity to make games themselves. In this latest EA patent publication, details are given for software that would provide users with source code, graphics, sounds, and more. All of which would be available in a marketplace where these assets could be acquired through trades, currency, tokens, or credits. Game editing and creation tools would also be provided, allowing users to take their acquired assets and use them to develop video games. It is noted that users could make original games or edit pre-existing games, expanding opportunities for creativity and welcoming communities who enjoy mods in video games. However, companies frequently file patents that are never used, so there is no guarantee this game creation marketplace from EA will ever be fully developed. The graphic gives a detailed breakdown of how this EA software would function. Users would first find content or assets that they want to use, add that content to an original or existing game, save their creation, and then either play it themselves or share it with others. The image notes for pay content, which suggests users could make games that are free to play or charge others for their games. The patent mentions how game development can prove cumbersome, with a high bar of entry, and promises to alleviate this issue. In short, EA would like this software to make game development more accessible by allowing users to create and distribute video games within an online space. While there is no guarantee EA's game creation marketplace will ever be made available, it does open up an interesting conversation about the accessibility of game development. As noted in EA's patent details, game development can prove difficult for newcomers, with many struggling to find ways to gain experience. If finalized, this game creation marketplace could prove useful to the future of hopeful game developers. Microsoft is possibly developing a pair of detachable gaming controllers not unlike the Nintendo Switch Joy-Cons, some recently surfaced patent documentation reveals. Although the appearance of the newly emerged concept is reminiscent of Nintendo's two-part gamepad, the underlying technology appears to hint at Microsoft brainstorming an indirect answer to the popular PlayStation Portal handheld. While both Sony and Nintendo have long experimented with portable systems, Microsoft has never pursued a traditional handheld console in over 22 years of making Xbox hardware. But the company's recent foray into cloud gaming did yield plenty of adjacent solutions by turning virtually any modern smartphone and tablet into a handheld system capable of gaming on the go. Microsoft is now seemingly exploring ways to make this technology even more accessible by providing users with the option of using platform-agnostic gamepads. A pair of such detachable controllers surfaced in a patent for adaptable input devices that the tech giant secured in late December. The biggest difference between the actual Joy-Cons and Microsoft's newly emerged concept is that the latter envisions a two-part controller equipped with a self-adjusting gripping mechanism that would allow it to cling to a wide range of devices of varying thicknesses. In some of their described applications, the two physical controllers are combined with a tablet into a solution that looks fairly similar to the PlayStation Portal. In others, the two-part device is attached to a smartphone in either portrait or landscape orientation. One of the illustrations accompanying the newly emerged patent even depicts the Joy-Con-style controllers in conjunction with a foldable phone that vaguely resembles the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold series. Microsoft's latest patent is largely design-oriented and hence makes no mention of the actual wireless technology that would be used for sending input signals to an attached device. Nevertheless, Bluetooth seems like an obvious choice for a solution of this sort. The concept itself is also not the first sign of the Xbox maker exploring detachable gamepads. On the contrary, Microsoft has been experimenting with Joy-Con-style controllers since at least 2019. According to a recent Statista study, Microsoft's R&D arm filed for over 1,800 patents in 2022 alone, and generally averages more than 1,500 such filings annually. Since the vast majority of those patents are yet to result in consumer-ready products, the chances of this particular concept being commercialized in the near future appear to be slim, at best. Hogwarts Legacy has officially been crowned the best-selling new video game release of 2023 in the US, marking the first time that a non-Call of Duty or Rockstar Games title has taken the spot since 2008. Hogwarts Legacy released to positive reception among gamers and record-breaking sales last February, and I was predicting that it would be the top-selling game of the year well before it even hit store shelves. Say that there was an incredible amount of hype for Hogwarts Legacy would be an understatement. The concept of an open-world game set at Hogwarts is a dream game for many people, and the Harry Potter IP meant that it would appeal to more than just hardcore gamers. By appealing to both hardcore gamers and the Harry Potter fans, Hogwarts Legacy was able to beat Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 to become the best-selling game of 2023 in the US. This is according to data shared by Matt Piscatella, who revealed the top 20 best-selling video games of 2023. Hogwarts Legacy was followed by Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, Madden NFL 24, Marvel's Spider-Man 2, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, Diablo 4, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, Mortal Kombat 1, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, and EA Sports FC 24. Since 2009, every year has been dominated by Call of Duty or Rockstar. In fact, Call of Duty has been the best-selling game every single year except for 2013 when Rockstar released Grand Theft Auto V and 2018 when Rockstar launched Red Dead Redemption 2. Hogwarts Legacy will likely continue to sell well in 2024, though it remains to be seen if it will be able to appear in the top 10 best-selling games of the year like how 2022's Modern Warfare 2 made it for the 2023 list. After 2022 saw US spending on games dip 5%, 2023 saw a return to growth, according to the latest figures from industry tracking group Circana. Total US spending on games was up 1% to $57.2 billion in 2023, with slight gains in software, add-ons and subscriptions, up 1% to $48 billion, and accessories, up 4% to $2.6 billion, offsetting essentially flat hardware sales, down a fraction of a percent to $6.59 billion. On the full-year hardware front, PS5 was the best-selling platform of the year in units and dollars. Sony's system saw its dollar sales grow as the Xbox Series consoles and Switch saw theirs drop. Switch was the second best-selling console of the year in both units and dollars. Accessories saw the largest growth in 2023, driven by a 7% jump in gamepad sales, with the PS5 DualSense Edge being the year's bestseller when it came to dollar sales. Looking at December specifically, the industry finished the year on a comparatively strong note with total spending up 4% to $7.9 billion. Other notable games charting are Final Fantasy XVI at 16, Starfield at number 10 and Elden Ring at 18 still doing big numbers. On the PlayStation side of things, Spider-Man 2 outsold Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 in the US, which is very impressive. Hogwarts Legacy is number 1 and Spider-Man 2 is at number 2 on PlayStation, which beat out Call of Duty. God of War Ragnarok comes in at 13 and Gran Turismo 7 at number 17, as far as first-party games goes. It is good to see two single-player games, and single-player games overall dominating the sales charts and even outdoing juggernauts. 182 million PC and console games were sold across Europe in 2023, a rise of 1.7% over the year before. This is based on GSD data, which tracks all physical game sales across major European markets, and digital sales from most major games publishers across every country in Europe. As usual, EA's football game leads the sales by a comfortable margin. EA Sports FC 24 sold 9% fewer units in 2023 compared with FIFA 23 in 2022, but when you factor in the rebrand and the fact there was a World Cup in December 2022, it's not particularly unexpected. EA Sports FC 24's sales remain ahead of what the FIFA franchise was pulling in pre-pandemic. In second place is Hogwarts Legacy, and Warner Bros. Game has been a massive hit across Europe. In fact, outside of EA football games, no game has sold this many units in a calendar year since these charts began back in 2017. The Harry Potter spin-off was also the best-selling physical game of the year. It had a protracted release, with the PC, PS5 and Xbox Series S and X versions launching in February, the PS4 and Xbox One editions arriving in May, before reaching Nintendo Switch in November. Hogwarts Legacy's boxed sales came mostly on PS5, which accounted for well over half the title's sales this year. The second biggest platform was PS4, followed by Nintendo Switch. It was a disappointing year for the new Call of Duty, which unusually didn't make the top 3 this year. Modern Warfare 3 foot sales are down 32% for the year compared with what 2022's Modern Warfare 2 managed, although it's worth noting that Modern Warfare 2 did launch slightly earlier in the year. Another Activision Blizzard title makes number 6 in the form of Diablo 4, while Nintendo Switch exclusives The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom and Super Mario Bros. Wonder both chart well at number 7 and number 9 respectively. Both games may have reached higher in the charts, but Nintendo doesn't share digital data with the charts company, so this placement is based on their physical sales alone. If we just look at the physical chart, Zelda comes in at number 3 and Mario at number 4. Rounding off the top 10 was Spider-Man 2 at number 10. It was another strong year for Rockstar, with GTA 5 at number 5, sales only down 1% over the year before, and Red Dead Redemption 2 at number 8, with sales up 19% over the year before. Other new games in the top 20 include Star Wars Jedi Survivor at number 11, Assassin's Creed Mirage at number 12, F123 at number 15, and Resident Evil 4 Remake at number 17. God of War Ragnarok did really have great legs, coming at number 18. Within the top 100, there's Dead Space Remake, number 30, Final Fantasy XVI, number 32, NBA 2K24, number 33, Dead Island 2, number 35. Starfield, number 37, The Crew Motorfest, number 38, WWE 2K23, number 42, Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, number 48, Mortal Kombat 1, number 53, Just Dance 2024, number 82, EA Sports UFC 5, number 97, and Street Fighter 6, number 98. 34% of all games sold in 2023 were titles released the same year, a slight drop on the 35% reported in 2022. In terms of platforms, PC was number 1 in terms of game sales, ahead of PS5, number 2, Switch, number 3, PS4, number 4, and Xbox Series S and X, number 5. Out of those 5, Switch and PS4 are the only platforms to post a drop in game sales year on year. The biggest European market for games remains the UK, ahead of Germany, number 2, France, number 3, Spain, number 4, and Italy, number 5. Across tracked European markets, 7.4 million video game consoles were sold in 2023, which is a rise of nearly 42% over the year before. This is mostly due to the PS5, which saw a 177% increase in sales year on year. PS5 suffered severe stock issues during 2022. PS5 was far and away the biggest console of the year. Nintendo Switch holds the number 2 spot, with sales dipping nearly 10% over the year before. In third place is Xbox Series S and X, which saw sales drop nearly 18% over the year before. Another platform that saw big growth was PlayStation 4. Again, this console was in short supply in 2022, and as a result sales are up 671% in 2023. In terms of accessories, 20.5 million peripherals were sold in Europe last year, a rise of 9% year on year. The PS5 DualSense controller leads the pack, followed by Microsoft's Xbox Series wireless controller. 38 million video games were sold in the UK during 2023, the latest GSD figures reveal. It's a slight increase of 2.6% over the year before, with EA Sports FC 24 continuing where FIFA left off as the UK's best-selling video game. Sales for the rebranded series are down 8.4% over the year before to 2.39 million units sold. It's worth noting that FIFA 23 benefited from the FIFA World Cup, which ran over December 2022. It was another strong year for Warner Bros. After securing the number 3 best-selling UK game in 2022, LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga, the company has gone one better with Hogwarts Legacy, which easily beat Call of Duty to number 2. At number 3 in the charts is Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 3. Although it was billed as a full sequel to 2022's Modern Warfare 2, fans felt it was more like an expansion. Which may explain why its sales are nearly 39% lower compared with the previous year's game. Modern Warfare 2 was also on sale a little longer, having launched in October, whereas Modern Warfare 3 arrived in November. EA Sports FC 24, Hogwarts Legacy and Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 all had marketing partnerships with PlayStation, and over half of those games' sales were on Sony formats. It wasn't the strongest year for new IP, unless you count EA Sports FC. The highest charting new IP released last year was Starfield, which reached number 31. The best-selling new IP of 2022 was Elden Ring, which reached number 4. Elden Ring is at number 28 in the 2023 chart. God of War Ragnarok came in at number 27. It was a strong year for Disney IP. Spider-Man 2 from PlayStation just missed out on the top 5 at number 6, and it's followed closely by Star Wars Jedi Survivor by EA. Nintendo doesn't share digital data with the charts, so its game's performance is based entirely on physical sales. As a result, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, number 9, and Super Mario Bros. Wonder, number 11, will have charted higher if we had access to the download figures. Other notable new releases in the top 20 include Assassin's Creed Mirage at number 14, the remake of Resident Evil 4 at number 15, NBA 2K23 at number 16, WWE 2K23 at number 18 and F1 23 at number 19. Also within the top 100 are Dead Island 2, number 25, Dead Space Remake, number 29, Mortal Kombat 1, number 30, Starfield, number 31, Final Fantasy 16, number 32, EA Sports UFC 5, number 47. Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, number 54, Street Fighter 6, number 56, Sonic Superstars, number 63, The Crew Motorfest, number 66, Just Dance 2024, number 81, Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon, number 84, and Forspoken, number 96. 2.38 million games consoles were sold during the year in the UK, according to GfK panel data. That's a rise of 9.4% over the year before. PS5 was the driver behind this. Sony's console saw sales rise 55.2% over 2022, making it the biggest year yet for the new PlayStation. It's actually the best year for a PlayStation machine since 2014. The other console to post year-on-year growth was, interestingly, PS4. Sales of PS4 were up 633% year-on-year. Like with PS5, this is due to severe console shortages that plagued PlayStation consoles throughout the year prior. Elsewhere, Nintendo Switch ended the year as the number 2 console, but sales are down 16.7% over the year before. This is the Switch's 7th year on the market and a decline was expected. Narrowly behind Switch is the Xbox Series S and X, which saw sales drop 14.2% over the year before. Over in accessories, 9 million products were sold at UK retail in 2023, a drop of 4.5% over the year before, despite improved console sales. In Japan, the Nintendo Switch was the best-selling console of the year 2023 and The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom was the best-selling physical game, and Suka Watermelon Game was the best-selling digital game. Some notable games missing from the sales charts are Baldur's Gate 3, Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty and Nintendo Digital sales, so unfortunately we won't get the full picture. According to the latest sales numbers from WB, Hogwarts Legacy has sold 22 million units to date, and is the best-selling game of 2023 worldwide. Hogwarts Legacy's impressive sales hopefully mean a sequel is on the way. It should come as no surprise to fans, but it's been confirmed that there are even more Harry Potter video games in the works. With books, film adaptations, theme parks, and various video games under its belt, Harry Potter is easily one of the biggest IPs in the world. Harry Potter has long had a presence in the gaming space, with most HP games taking their cues from the books or the movies. More recent years have seen WB become more aggressive with its Harry Potter video game strategy, launching the Portkey Games label to produce new games set in the Wizarding World universe. Most of these games have been proven hits, and so it makes sense that even more Harry Potter games are on the way. This is according to Warner Bros. Interactive Entertainment president David Haddad himself, speaking to Variety. According to Haddad, WB is working on multiple Harry Potter projects that have yet to be announced. There are so many possibilities when it comes to future Harry Potter games, but there is one possible title that seems the most obvious. This is according to Warner Bros. Interactive Entertainment president David Haddad himself, speaking to Variety. According to Haddad, WB is working on multiple Harry Potter projects that have yet to be announced. There are so many possibilities when it comes to future Harry Potter games. Hopefully all of them will be single-player, story-driven experiences. While it has been a record-breaking year in terms of PlayStation 5 sales, the Xbox Series X and S is falling behind, selling nearly a third of the units. It was reported earlier this year that the PS5 was outselling the Xbox Series X and S nearly 2-1, but it seems the margin has expanded even further thanks in part to major exclusives like Spider-Man 2. The PS5 has been bolstered by exclusives like Final Fantasy XVI and Spider-Man 2 in 2023. The platform even benefited from a brief period of console exclusivity for one of the best games of 2023, Baldur's Gate 3. Sony has long focused on AAA single-player experiences that can only be had on PlayStation consoles. This strategy has largely panned out well for Sony, as the PS5 looks to outdo its best-selling predecessors. The Financial Times, thanks to data collected by Ampere Analysis, is reporting that the PS5 is currently outselling the Xbox Series consoles by a nearly 3-1 margin. According to Ampere Analysis, the PS5 sold 22.5 million units from January to November 2023, while the Xbox Series consoles sold a combined 7.6 million. In what is likely to be the last year before the Nintendo Switch's successor is announced and possibly even released, the hybrid console sold an impressive 16.4 million units just months before its 7th birthday. For the PS5, however, this represents some record-breaking sales numbers. Black Friday and the overall holiday shopping season have added to the PS5's impressive tally as Sony looks to be on track to hit its aggressive goal of selling 25 million units by March 31, 2024, the end of the company's fiscal year. At this rate, the PS5 looks to overtake the PS4 in terms of sales, which is extremely impressive given its predecessor is one of the best-selling consoles of all time. I think it could even beat the PS2. A record-breaking 14,532 titles were released on Steam in 2023, according to sources that kept track throughout the year. From massive surprises such as Baldur's Gate 3 and Sea of Stars to dubious titles including The Day Before, the staggering number of Steam titles released on the platform in 2023 continued an upward trend for Valve. 2023 also was memorable for Steam, as it celebrated its 20th year of service as a storefront. Throughout the year, numerous sales were held, with the 2023 Steam Winter Sale concluding at the time of writing. To close a momentous year, a Steam beta client build gave users some more privacy control over their games and achievements, as it was one of the most requested features in the service's history. Though Steam is far removed from its humble beginnings as a launcher for Counter-Strike, Valve's platform is showing no signs of slowing down. With 2024 underway, a look back at how big Steam has grown was observed. According to figures logged by SteamDB, 14,532 Steam games were released in 2023 in the US alone, which is an increase of nearly 2,000 from 2022. In comparison, 2022 saw 12,561 games released on Valve's PC platform, and the growth continued a trend that spanned back as far as 2019. The only time Steam saw a major dip in releases was between 2018 and 2019, with 8,900 and 8,134 respective releases. Though the 14,532 games were headlined by releases, including Baldur's Gate 3, Steam's 2023 releases varied in quality. This was due to the platform allowing more use of game development tools and Valve taking a more relaxed approach to curating Steam's available releases. This information was provided in a tweet on Piscatella's account, where he discusses Steam's roaring success in 2023, based on numbers from SteamDB and a report posted by GamesRadar. He notes that a record-breaking 14,532 titles were released on the platform, with the closest that any other platform in the US has come to reaching that number being the Switch at 2,360. Speaking of sales, Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope is close to hitting 3 million in lifetime sales, sources claim. This turn of events suggests that the Nintendo Switch exclusive is mounting quite a sales comeback after Ubisoft itself admitted that Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope had a disappointing launch. The original Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle was met with widespread fan affection, and is still widely touted as one of the best third-party Switch exclusives nearly 7 years following its release. While Mario + Rabbids Sparks of Hope debuted to comparably glowing reviews in October 2022, it failed to replicate its predecessor's launch sales momentum, as per Ubisoft's own disclosures. Be that as it may, Sparks of Hope has still managed to generate almost 3 million sales to date, VGC reports, citing sources familiar with the matter. That lifetime sales tally places it roughly in the ballpark of the original game's launch year performance. For added context, Mario + Rabbids Kingdom Battle amassed over 10 million sales over the past 6.5 years. VGC sources also claim that this apparent sales comeback was at least partially fueled by a slew of discounts that Mario + Rabbids Sparks of Hope received in recent times. On that note, it bears pointing out that deep discounts are standard practice for Ubisoft. The company has long been a proponent of the so-called Dutch auction approach when devising its pricing strategy, launching games at full prices before treating them to deep price cuts shortly thereafter in an effort to generate sales across as many consumer demographics as possible, irrespective of their purchase power. Nevertheless, Ubisoft's decision to label Mario + Rabbids Sparks of Hope as a flop at launch could be explained by the fact that the game released at a time when the Switch had an installed base of 115 million units, more than 10 times what it did back when Kingdom Battle hit the market in August 2017. It hence stands to reason that the publisher was possibly expecting Sparks of Hope to perform better at launch than its predecessor did. When that didn't come to pass, Ubisoft even said it made a mistake not waiting for the Switch 2 with Sparks of Hope, which is what Nintendo itself suggested. That notwithstanding, this newly emerged report does indicate that the Kingdom Battle sequel remains on course to amass enviable long-term sales, in spite of its underwhelming launch. This turn of events is bound to inspire hope among the series fandom that a third Mario + Rabbids game is still on the cards. In another sales update, Street Fighter VI has sold though 3 million copies. And that's all for the video, ladies and gentlemen. Like and share the video for a greater audience. Comment your thoughts on the topics, and donations are always appreciated. Subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon, and until then, from SMPV, it's goodbye.